All right. Okay, so this is our weekly all-team tactical meet. We're gonna go through the priorities for the week, sync up on work that's going on, eliminate blockers, and try to prioritize for the next week. So what we're trying to achieve is transaction volume. And we're at 450 from the last week. That's up 370. This is spread out across 4 users. So the last time we've had some bumps in transaction volume, it was like really just like 1 or 2 users. This time it was spread out over 4 users, which is kind of nice. We're getting there. We're getting a little bit better, and so that's kind of what we want to see. That the transaction volume is spread out across users as we can. On the lead metric side, this is what we think are going to move the needle. For weekly transacting users, we actually have 9 of them. So when I said 4, those are the ones who really contributed. A lot of the new weekly transacting users are the ones who signed up last week and are trying to connect to their ACH and that kind of stuff. So that's what's going on there. And for the new users, 0 new users, and 10 communities deployed, or at least at the end of today, 10 communities will be deployed as we're going to put out tree gens and our BCard community. So that'll be pretty fun. So team-wide announcements, we're going to talk about messaging today. We started talking about it last week a little bit. We kind of ended on positioning. And the output of positioning is messaging, or not the output, but it is like a dependency of messaging. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We really need to work on flow state. And so flow state is kind of like Gitcoin in a way. People donate and stuff gets matched. But you can just see right here. So here's us. We have 6 donors and we're getting 0.3 of an ETH. But we have groups like Modular Crypto who have 13 donors and they're getting 3.5 ETH, right? And so in terms of what we can do to up our chances, even just getting everyone in this room to donate a little bit, like I think the minimum you can donate it's a streaming donation. So basically you donate something like $1 a month in ETH, and that will lead to something much better for us in matching funds. And they just added an additional 5 ETH a month. So I think that they were doing 3 ETH a month before. Now they're doing 5 ETH a month. That is coming out of this. So over the next couple of months, we could be getting, like if we get another 6 donors, we could be getting like an ETH a month. And that's nothing to sneeze at, for a couple of $1 donations a month. So I would love if I could. Who can I ask? Has anyone donated to this already?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great, Tom.
But I think I donated to like 4 or 5 different projects during that demo day.
Yeah, fair enough, right? Like that's cool. That's spreading the wealth as well. But Drost, Arcusti, is this something that you guys would be interested in? Maybe I could sit with you and.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm on the stream.
Oh, you're on it already. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, Drost, Winverse, is this something that I could potentially convince you to do as well? No pressure.
What are you convincing me to do? Donate?
Yeah, basically, if you donate a little bit, since it's quadratic funding. So I think that there's like and so I'm not allowed to donate on this with this current wallet that I have connected, but I did donate with another wallet that I have.
Okay,
But
sure.
But basically, you can connect your wallet, stream in like $1 a month for the next 3 months, and that would really help us out.
Okay, cool. What's the deadline on that?
There's no deadline, but since it goes out every month, it would be nice if it was before the end of the month.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so we're slowly working on that. How about you, Winverse? I could probably sit with you guys to figure it out, because there is a Sybil component, so you kind of have to like go through their Sybil process first using guild.xyz, which I have heard is not very user friendly. But Winverse, is this something you would consider doing as well? Maybe you can't chat. All right, fair enough. Well, no pressure, but it would really help us out if we could do it. And we are, of course, going to promote it as well in our newsletter. So we could do that. And yeah, moving on from there. No new members today. 10 weekly transacting users. So On the lifecycle emails, this is kind of our top priority right now. Monthly statement will hopefully be shipped today, I think, Tom. What do you think?
Ready to go from my end.
All right, sweet. And we will do, we have a new workflow automation for 1 week emails. I just did it for the new users that we had. So I just kind of manually added them. But what I really want to do is edit our email sending so that every new user will kind of get added to a 2-day and a 4-day email. So, it's a process that I'm still working on, but that's the intent behind it, is that we're going to use MailJet for sending these lifecycle emails and kind of replace that welcome email with something a little bit more professional looking. On the user interview side, I do have a synthesis up. I wanted to get Zudi's thoughts, but she may not have time. She has some family issues that she's dealing with right now. So the good news is that most of the synthesis has been taken into account. I mean, that's why we're doing our lifecycle emails, is because some of the stuff that we found out of there. And so, yeah, we're going to be going from that. On the user analytics side, I found at least one bug, which is that not all of the transactions have dates on them. So we kind of added dates to transactions after we started, and I think that's why there's some missing. I thought I ran a migration for that, but maybe I didn't. Anyways, what I'm thinking of doing, Tom, is just either like finding my old translation where I actually look into the transaction to see what the date was, and
or the timestamp date, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bunch that are missing that timestamp date. So I'll run an SQL query to fix it on production, but before I run that, I'll either I'll try it on staging and stuff, obviously in my local, but I'll either try to open up the. We can go into the technical details later. Anyways, it looks like I probably found the bug that is causing the difference in analytics that we see, and so I'll just try to fix that. October rewards reconciliation. This is done and posted to socials. As we kind of said last month, I beefed it up a little by using emojis and that kind of thing to make it a little bit more readable, and we'll go from there. Yes, we're aiming to get 10 new users a week. So we had 8 new users last week, but the numbers were weird. And so it turns out that we actually had 4, but 2 of them created 3 accounts. This isn't good because, first of all, 1, the user is getting 3 accounts and doesn't know about it, right? And it's likely that it's a bug on our end. 2, we pay for every new account that comes up, so it's not good for us either. And 3, it's obviously showing us that something is wrong there. They shouldn't be able to do that. There was 1 and 2 minute kind of intervals, so I'm wondering if it's something the users did, because 2 of the users got in no problem, and 2 of the users got in with 3 accounts made. It just seems too coincidental that 3 accounts were made. Anyways, there's clearly a bug there, and I need to fix it. So, yeah, I created a task for that, and I'll get into it as we go. On the messaging side, we're going to be doing a working session today after this tactical part of the meeting. Pool together campaign. I don't know. Coffee Crusher said she was going to handle this, and then it kind of hasn't really happened. So I'm just going to poke her about it today. She did get some assets out. She did get some some Farcaster stuff out. But, we were supposed to do a similar kind of production that we were going to do with OMF. And so it wasn't really like that. It wasn't very coordinated. And so we just need to look at how we can do that better. On the website side, I need to get this shipped kind of ASAP. I think one of the first things people do when they see us go to our website, and we do have an output that's slightly better from Bobo now, and so I can put that up. I just haven't had a chance to do it. All right, 10 high quality communities, TreeGens and BCard. We're going to ship those today. C3, we have all the assets. We're just waiting for feedback now. OMF, the meeting I was supposed to have with them yesterday got pushed to next week, and I want to make a list of communities to target using this thing called the Giving Block. This is what OMF uses for accepting crypto donations. And so I think that we could just like make a list of all the kind of groups that like look that accept crypto donations and potentially reach out to them. And so there's some here as well. I think that in general we could do a lot with this. So we shall see. But it would be good to get a list of that. Is anyone interested in making it that list of communities to target? We can put a bounty on it and all that kind of good stuff. No? Okay.
Yeah, this looks pretty interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to give it a go, Drost?
Sure.
All right. So I will add this to you, Drost. And yeah, you can make that list in our Notion, which I think you have access to already, in the private side, I guess, because that's where our CRM is. So basically, if you go to BCard private, actually, I see your Drost is here, and you go to CRM, you can just create like a new list here or a new page or something, which is just all of these groups. Actually, don't go to CRM. Go to community partner funnel and just like
Partner funnel.
Yeah, you could even just create. You could just even create a page here and
like giving block.
Exactly, and then we can start adding stuff to the partner funnel once you and I have a discussion about it.
Okay, cool.
Here, I'll even just do this right here. Page, giving block, yes, and I'll post that in the Asana task as well. Put the list here. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Drost. Stick that in here.
Sure. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, I feel like
some prospects.
Exactly. And then, I mean, like one of the things that we're supposed to be doing is doing the disgusting thing. I think one of the things that I need to be doing is just doing sales more, which I haven't been doing mainly because, we have product and messaging stuff as well that needs to go a little bit downstream. But at some point, there's either going to be time for me or someone else to do some sales calls. And it would be good to have a list ready for when that's ready. So thanks for that help, Drost. All right. So we want to get to 10 high quality communities. I think like one of the things that we need to talk about is like what kinds of communities, like what is the spread of communities so that anyone who kind of drops into our community page is kind of like, oh yeah, there's a community that I would look at, right? Like I kind of want like I'd be interested in one of those. Yeah, that's the kind of communities that we'll be aiming at, but in general, we can talk about that a bit later. All right, getting into our task perspective. So we'll go into the inbox, apply to join the next Octant epoch. So Octant gives away funding every quarter. There's a way to apply. I don't think we quite meet their requirements, but I'm gonna try anyways, because we were in the accelerator. They may give us a little bit of like benefit of the doubt there. So success criteria, try to apply to Octant epoch, and we'll see where we go from there. It's not super high on the list right now, so I'll stick it a little bit lower here. Okay, clean up multisigs. We used to have multisigs of all different addresses and and we used to have 6 signers, and we needed a 3 of 6. Now the issue with that is that 2 of those signers were already kind of like away. I could reach them if I wanted, but they were not really super involved, and only 3 of those signers are on our documentation for our Panama Foundation. And really, with our governance process, the intent is that when people get elected, they become directors of the Panama Foundation. So I wanted to clean that up. So now we have, and as well, Safe released this new feature, which allows you to deploy a mainnet safe to all of the L2s or different chains as well. So now our safe has the same address on OP base and Arbitrum. So if you go here, if you want to see what our multi-sig addresses are, if you go to the operations workstream, it's right here. So our multi-sig address, this is the same address as used on OP base and ARB. So this is the address that we have. I deployed those new safes. Me, Anna Thinker, and Samantha, we reduced signers from 6 down to 3, and we reduced the threshold from assets from the old multi-sigs. But if you wanted to see the historical multi-sig addresses, they're here as well. But in general, that's all done now. So our multi-sigs are clean, and they are based upon our governance process now. So yeah, I'm going to clean that up. There we go. Woohoo! In terms of communities, we have a bunch and needs feedback. C3, TreeGen, BCard, and Purple, I guess, is like kind of done, but we haven't really run a campaign for them. I think we need a new place where we want to like talk about how we're going to be communicating these. But for now, I'll just leave it here. On the lifecycle email side, I kind of mentioned it before, but Tom and I will get the monthly statement out today, and then I'll try to get the kind of like updates to the onboarding flow out before next week. Pull Together, I mentioned as well. We did send out emails. We did post on Warpcast. I don't think we posted on Twitter, and we didn't coordinate with them. The nice thing is that, I don't know if you guys know, but I've been working on this like Black Flag Collective thing. The intent behind this was kind of like to explore things that are interesting. And they like this mechanism that we have here, this kind of like endowment fund mechanism, is a mechanism we could use in BCard. And ultimately, I put the I put the code for this stuff in the BCard repository. So I think I'm going to change this to BCard, and it can be one of our projects that we kind of shipped as BCard as well, because it is really going back to our community, like creating revenue for communities purpose. So the reason I mentioned that is because someone from Pool Together saw what was on the snapshot. They got really excited about it, and they tweeted about it. And then so myself and the brand account for BCard, we did a little bit of retweeting, quote tweeting, and that kind of stuff, and that went well. So there's definitely some juice there that we can work with Pool Together on Twitter. I think that they have a bit more reach on Twitter than they do anywhere else. The Why BCard one pager. This is kind of our strategy doc that we'll go over today. Update website. I would say that this is one of our weaknesses in our entire kind of messaging flow. In general, we really need to change some of this stuff. Bobo sent me the code because he was having issues with GitHub, and then I will try to deploy it as I can. On the user interview side, this is kind of, I mean, it's done. We're just missing two last things, which is I wanted to get the insights from Zooty Bear and share with the team. If this doesn't happen by next week, then we'll just discuss. Excuse me. We'll discuss the insights that I kind of took out of it next week in this meeting. User analytics. So I did find the issues. Yeah, it's a crazy, the ones that are missing dates. Yeah, so we are missing dates. And I see, Tom, that you put on here. Storage Optic is different for creates, but they do have dates somewhere. Yeah, so I really just have to like add a date. Honestly, I could just add like a static date on those, and it will be included. Anyways, I'm not sure if that's a good way to do it either. Something I'll figure out. Make a list of targets based on crypto donations. You can reach out to me if you need any help on this. Competitive analysis. Crypto Dad said he's going to take another stab at this, so probably we'll talk about it tomorrow. Open Medicine Foundation meeting moved to Monday. October, November patron email. I'll do my best. I'm not necessarily going to get it out today, so we'll see. Apply to join the next Octan Depok. We already talked about this. Hero is sick, and all of his family is sick, so he asked to push this out to next week, which we shall do. Contributor rewards and payroll. Arkisti, how's this going? Oh, I see that you're driving now, Arkisti, so maybe you can't weigh in on this. Fair enough. Feel free to unmute if you do feel like you can, and then we can get back to it later. The higher community, yeah, we didn't really run we didn't actually run a campaign with them, so that would be interesting to communicate. And then audiograms, actually, Jost, I think you did have an update on this one.
Yeah, I was just making a couple of samples to see what you like, what the rest of the team likes. And what I'd done is just what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, which is trying to do a really quick and dirty, fast way of pulling out some stuff and then applying a template and dressing it up a little bit for key phrases that we want to put and promote on social media. So this was really just a quick and dirty that I pulled out. And if you look in if you feel like it, in the it's in the team chat, and then there's a thread off that with a couple of examples. So anyway, taking these team meetings, pulling basically win versus capture that he puts on YouTube, pulling that out, doing an AI quick cleanup for clarity, just pulls out a lot of the filler words, and then pull out a highlight reel. And I'm strictly using the highlight reel and then applying a template to it that that applies the BCard logo and can put the speaker name on there and automatically changes as it goes through the transcript. And so we can pull out pieces of that and use them as little short snippets to communicate a part of our ethos or whatever it is. And Links, you were saying you wanted things that were like 5 or 10 seconds. That's kind of short. And there's what I've noticed that the AI pulls out is it doesn't always pull out context around it. And so like that too small to succeed comment that you liked, there's a lot of context around that, which is the context around it is included in the clip I made or the audiogram that I made that I just posted this morning. And so anyway, I'm just wondering how we want to do those. Do we like the look of them? Does portrait versus landscape look better? Wanting attribution to an individual, or do we want it to be more of just what BCard represents and not really so much focus on the individual, or do we like that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, so like I think, I mean, it's hard to say which one's gonna be better, portrait or landscape, until we just actually post it on Twitter and see what it's like. But I think since you have the two, I don't think you can. You probably can't hear this, can you?
No.
Can you hear it? Okay.
And then there's that one I did with you.
Yeah. So why don't we just post these two? We'll post them at kind of different times. Why don't we post them next week? One on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and then we can just see the kind of results we get from them. In general, I like it. Like I think like it's it looks good. I think it's there's something about our message there, like our ethos there, and we'll just see what performs better. Because at this point, we may as well just try things, right? Rather than kind of discuss a bunch, and it's going to be the results which kind of lead us in a way.
Right. And in this one, since you have it up, I was just curious what your thinking was on. It extends kind of beyond that piece about big tech isn't going to care about smaller communities, but then it gets on to cross-selling between communities. And I know sometimes people react badly to the phrase cross-selling because it sounds kind of icky to certain, people don't like the term sales, but it's really cross-promoting or cross. Anyway, I wondered if it diluted the message or if it kind of would send out
It's hard to say what's going to work on social media. I think we should just release it and see, and then next week we'll be like, hey, we have some more content to mine from this meeting. How do we want to do that? Oh, last week, the shorter clip did better or the longer clip did better. So let's kind of use our brains and think about what we might want to share, right? Like we'll have, hopefully for each meeting we'll have 2 or 3 clips that we can use that we can potentially share, and then we can share 1 or 2 of them over the next week and see how it works.
Right. And then one of the other things you had mentioned, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's granular, but just in terms of having it play in situ or in line in the feed versus having to click on it and and then fill your screen and play the video. We can also do it as a GIF, but I don't know if that won't include audio. So
I
anyway,
think
just a couple of different options there, because I think Square works better if it's in situ.
yeah,
but-
maybe we'll try. Maybe we'll try Square one too, right? Like, did you want to make this one square, and we could make this one our square one, and the other one our long one, and we could just kind of let's try a couple different things and see what works, right? Like, and I know there's a couple of independent variables that we're messing around with here, and we're not going to get perfect, but I think that the bigger thing for us is to just try something and see how it works.
Right,
At this stage, we can use our heads, right?
Right. And one last thing, did you want me to maybe put the URL on there for app.bcard.io, or like a bumper that has the logo?
In general, I wouldn't
color
put a
changes.
bumper. I wouldn't put a bumper. I guess, like, specifically for Twitter, if we're posting it from our brand account, then hopefully they just click on our brand account and they can see what's there. I mean, we could put getbcard.io somewhere.
Anyway, I'm just throwing out stuff.
Yeah.
You can put all kinds of stuff on there. So it's just, these are again just samples, so feedback is encouraged. And yeah, I'm just pulling it from content we already have and cleaning it up a little bit. So
Yeah, I really like how it shows the person's PFP and name, because maybe it will encourage people to say interesting things that are on their mind in this meeting. And then maybe if you say something interesting, it will show up on our brand account. Yeah, so it's just a way for members to be heard in a way, right? Like, it feels decentralized.
yeah, all right, cool.
Cool. So why don't we talk about this later and maybe even ship the first one?
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. All right. We'll try to ship one this week. Get with links. See if we can do that. All right. Cool. And that's kind of it on this list here. Anything else that we want to talk about on this list? All right. Great. Let's move on to what did we ship last week? Actually, I missed one. I realized NF Thinker when you came in. NF Thinker shipped a bunch of assets for communities, including cards for TreeGen and C3 and C3 logo. So thanks for that, NF Thinker. Tom and I shipped some lifecycle emails. Tom was really doing some additional testing around that monthly statement. I added a 1-week email for new users, which is manual for now since we don't have a lot of new users, but the intent is to make it automatic for next week. Myself, NF Thinker, and Sam J updated the multisigs. They're now 2.3 and based on the directors of the Panama Foundation, and all the multisigs have the same, not URL, address. Gross created some audiograms. Try to ship today. Myself, Tom, and NF Thinker are working on getting new communities out. TreeGens and BCard today. C3 potentially next week. I shipped the October rewards reconciliation with posts on social media, gussied up as we spoke about last month. And NF Thinker shipped a bunch of assets for communities, including cards for TreeGen. Anything else that we shipped that's not here? No? Okay, let me add Core and NF Thinker up here.
I'll just add a quick aside related to C3. She did get back in an email, and she wanted some different options based around their brand. She mentioned the debit wording. I'm going to try and leave it in their hands as much as possible. Let's just say, I used the drawing that you provided. I've used your word mark. I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to do design iterations around these things, especially as oftentimes I've found with designs, if somebody's very, very particular around something and kind of go, maybe something different, it usually ends up being the case that they send something along and say, this is what we were thinking of. So I'm going to try and tease that out of them first before I spend a ton of time on design iterations. But I will get back to her in an email, and hopefully we can kind of set a standard around that, like we tried to do initially, using that template and saying, this is a blank space, use it however you want. And as long as it fits within these guidelines, then it's okay with us. Does that sound good to you, Lynx?
Yeah, it definitely sounds good. I actually didn't get her email back. Maybe she just replied to you. But in general, what we talked about was that actually she originally said, "Oh, we have some designers, we'll do it." So if we send her the templates, of which I do have, I think I have them on my local machine. But what I should do is I should just put those templates in our partner communities folder. We can just that's what I usually do is I just send them to people. In fact, I think I might have sent them to her in that first
I'm
email.
pretty sure you did send them to her directly, so I'll get back to her. You were copied in the email. It was sent today at, well, it would have been yesterday for you at 11 p.m.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll ping her back and include you in the email, and I'll send those templates again.
Yeah, so I think in general, if she's really opinionated, we should just get her to do it. She said she had designers to do it as well, so
Perfect.
cool. Thanks for that note. I appreciate that, and a thinker. And next, we can get into our discussion. And so last week, we talked a lot about positioning in these strategy notes. Actually, I may as well pop those open. Oh, you know what? I should pop those open into a new tab so I can continue to take notes here. Just as a quick and dirty update from last week, the idea is that we help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. This is kind of the thing that we could be the best at, potentially, for various reasons. If you want to know why, continue to look at this. But ultimately, TradFi doesn't provide much for these communities, much for these purpose-driven communities, because they aren't moneymakers. The communities are filled with people who care about purpose over profit, just like us. And we are Web3 native and DAO native, which means that we know what works and what doesn't. And so how we want our users to feel is kind of what we spent most of the time last week talking about. I think I thought about this quite a bit, actually. And there is a book that I quite like called The Courage to Be Disliked. And it is a distilling of this psychologist who was a contemporary of Freud and that other popular psychologist, I forget his name. Darn it, that's going to bug me. I'll have to look it up later. Anyways.
Is it Nietzsche? Friedrich Nietzsche?
Maybe it was. No, but it wasn't. No, it was Freud. I don't know. I don't think it was Nietzsche. Because Nietzsche was not a psychologist. He was a philosopher for sure, but he had difficulty concentrating over long periods of time. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't Nietzsche, but
perhaps Carl Jung.
It was Jung. It was. Yeah. So he was a contemporary of them, and he has this idea called the community feeling, and basically he feels that it is in some ways this community feeling is the way to happiness for every individual, and so it really refers to a person's innate sense of connection, empathy, and contribution towards others in society. This feeling of belonging and solidarity is essential for mental health and well-being. He believes that people who develop a strong community feeling are more likely to experience satisfaction, a sense of purpose, and a feeling of significance. And so, a true sense of community feeling arises from self-understanding and a commitment to common good rather than self-interest. When people cultivate it, they are less likely to experience feelings of isolation, anxiety, or inferiority, as they recognize their role as valuable and contributing members of a larger society. Developing a community feeling is seen as a personal and moral achievement, one that encourages cooperation, compassion, and mutual respect in person and social interactions. So this includes a lot of the things we were saying in the past, feeling appreciated, feeling like you can do something, feeling like you're part of a whole, feeling like you're contributing. And so we want our users to feel a community feeling, that is a connection, a solidarity, a belonging. And it comes from things like taking perspective of others, prioritizing contribution over competition, self-acceptance, gratitude, growth mindset, purposeful work, and inclusivity. So we have to show the above and help the user do the above. If we want them to get that community feeling, we need ways to show them gratitude and also ways for them to express their gratitude to others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does to me. Make it more responsive.
It might be a big feeling. It's something that we probably will need to develop over time. But I do think it takes into account a lot of the things that people were saying. I think specifically, NF Thinker, that feeling of like, I guess like appreciation, gratitude, that was something that I was having difficulty reconciling in my mind. And this community feeling, like it felt like it was downstream of this feeling that we want users to feel. Like to feel connected, you have to feel appreciated in some ways. Does that make sense? I kind of wanted your input on this, NF Thinker.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, like evoking a feeling through action.
If you build an
Of course.
ecosystem that allows people to be friendly, you'll build friendly ecosystems and communities.
Exactly, exactly. And everything we do needs to kind of show that you are part of our community by doing this with us, and you are also able to give back to your community in a way. And I think I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I mean, like just to double down on that, like that's the idea around well, Web 2 originally, giving people the opportunity to engage with a site. But Web 3 really just takes that to the next level because not only do you have that engagement, but you have the digital ownership. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. I was talking to a friend last night who's he invests in crypto. He has been doing for the past, I don't know, 4 years or something like that. And he does it all through crypto.com. He is he is a fan of crypto.com because he's getting the yield on the CRO token. He gets cash back on his card, so he can go out and fill up his tank, and he can get that that feeling of being rewarded, that feeling of getting something from the card. But when I was trying to explain to him the sort of Ponzi-nomics of CRO tokens specifically, it wasn't quite resonating with him. I think this is going to be a challenge across the board because even though um, people are fans of communities and fans of certain types of activities that they sort of gravitate towards, those activities and those communities are very sparse, sparsely uh, spread out. Right. If you took if you went around your town that you live in, say 10,000 people or 20,000 people, or if you live in a big city, there are so many different interests. It's going to be very difficult to capture what really draws people. This is, this kind of speaks to our mission of engaging with loads of different communities and allowing the communities to open up the floodgate for people to engage with them. But I think there's still a lot of learning that needs to happen around the concept of digital ownership, because people already feel like they can engage in some way and they feel like they can get rewarded in some way, but there's no sort of permanence around that stuff. So maybe that's just a concept that we need to really delve into, especially Hero with the some of the writing that he does. What is it about Web3 that is so different from the way you already own your brand? What is it? What can you get from this new era of digital ownership? So yeah, I think that's probably one of the most confusing things that still exists out there for a regular everyday user who just wants to get the cash back or just wants to get the yield. How is it that you can further engage with your community, and how do we continue to enable communities who are vastly different in the way that they currently engage with their fans, and what it is they're trying to provide for their fans, and what it is they're trying to get their fans to do. Just as a bit of context, my friend he's big into racing, F1 racing, some motorbike racing, rally racing, that type of thing. So how do we look across the different demographics, and how do we sort of engage with these high traffic areas to really break out to the next level?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you're talking about that stuff. Like one of the things I've noticed when I'm talking about Farcaster with others is when I call it a user-owned social network, boom, all of a sudden that is really interesting to them because most people have ran into an issue, or at least the ones who have ran into an issue with Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or something like that, who close their account. All of a sudden, when they say user-owned, that kind of piques their interest. So that idea of ownership, I do think, is powerful, but it's powerful for the people who've gotten who've kind of come up against that issue in the past. And the further along we go, chances are more and more people are going to be feeling this issue. There are people fleeing Twitter right now because of the election results, and they're realizing that if they move to a different platform, they lose all their following, right? But with some of these new Web3 socials, that wouldn't be the case. Hey, Cora, I see that you unmuted. Did you have something to say on this topic as well?
No, I just switched from mobile to desktop and it unmuted me.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. I do think that idea of digital ownership is important. And in terms of that community feeling, if you feel like you own things with others, I think that can help. All right, next up, I wanted to talk about, okay, so we have this kind of we have kind of our right to exist. We're going to help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. We're going to try to make our users feel a community feeling. And so the messaging that we talk to our users with, this is how we bridge the gap between what we want to do and what are the things that they want, right? Our messaging is what we're going to be iterating on the most. How can we express our value to others in a way that actually gets them to take notice, gets them to take action, okay? I think that is really a difficult thing to do. But now that we have this kind of baseline that we need, I think we can move on and work on it. And one of I think like the current, well, the thinking I like is by this person, Simon Sinek. He has a book called Start With Why. Pretty famous business book. I don't know how many of you have heard of it or read it, but there's a really great TED Talk about it, how great leaders inspire action. And he talks about different kinds of organizations. And he says that most organizations, they say what they do, they say how they do it, and maybe they might say why after. But when you start with what, it doesn't engage the parts of the brain that make decisions. It engages the parts of the brains that do logic. And that's not actually what you use. Those parts of the brains that handle language and logic and math, they are the same parts of the brains that handle kind of gut decisions. And so you want to engage the part of the brain that actually handles those gut decisions. And to do that, you need to start with why. And so when we're talking about what are the things that you do, we make a debit card, right? How do we do it? Well, we do it so you can support your favorite community. You can stack tokens, all these other kinds of things. Why do we do it? Actually, that's what we just talked about over the last couple of weeks, right? We do it for this, so that we can help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. Even this, we can go further back on the why. So, most organizations would do something like this. We do debit cards. We do debit cards that donate to your favorite causes. Why? Well, for whatever reason. So this, what we can do is kind of when we're iterating on our messaging, and this is just one that I came up very quickly. Why? We want the world to be driven by purpose instead of profit. We create user-friendly tools to help purpose-driven communities generate revenue and engagement. And what do? Here's a debit card. Here's our latest project. It's a debit card. Okay? Do you understand? Like, does this make sense? Like this change or like this order that you kind of engage the audience with?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Here's another example that he used in in the video for Apple. He said if Apple was every other company, they would do this. We make great computers. They're simple, beautiful, and easy to use. Want to buy one? And he says that that's not very effective. But Apple, the way that they actually communicate, everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo and thinking differently. The way that we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautiful, simple, and user-friendly. And we happen to make great computers. Do you want to buy one? And so he says that the difference between this and this is, hey, when you do this, you're really positioning yourself as a computer company. You're not like a change-making company. If Apple releases like a VR headset, we're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. But if someone else, if HP releases a VR headset, you're kind of like, I don't really get it. Why is HP doing this, right? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So the goal is not to do business with everyone who needs what you do, but to do business with the people who believe what you believe. So we've been kind of leaning on the bankless message, but I think that that might be a crutch that we've been using because it's popular, but maybe we need to aim more at this kind of purpose over profit message. So when we're talking about why, when we're talking about this messaging, this is the kind of messaging that we're going to be spreading far and wide on Twitter, right? And then when people get engaged with that messaging, they will go further down into our funnel and figure out maybe how we do the things that we do. Maybe on a podcast, we talk about how we do the things that we do. And then finally, what we do, well, here's our latest product, it's a debit card. Here's some of the communities that we help. Here's some case studies. You know, they might be on our website. They might be actually using our product at that point. So really, that kind of why, this is the why messaging is the messaging that we need to iterate upon right now. The why messaging is the messaging that we're going to spread far and wide in their different distribution channels and see what resonates. The why message for us is like our flag that we're planting in the ground and we're trying to rally people behind. Okay, so I wanted to spend a couple minutes on our why messaging. So for me, I was kind of like looking at this idea of purpose over profit, but what do you guys think? What is some of the why, like what is the messaging, knowing what you know above, what is some of the messaging we could use? Why are we here? What are some things that we could say on Twitter, for instance? You know, not just Twitter, but, you know, what are some of the things we could say?
Maybe something along the lines of saving and making money is more fun with your friends. Join a community that you believe in, something like that.
Nice. Yeah, so this is just brainstorming, so feel free to just throw something out, even if it's just half a thought. That half thought might create interest in someone else. One thing I've said in the past, which I don't think is really hitting, go ahead, Corrupted.
BYOB, be your own bank.
One thing I've said in the past, I don't think it's really hitting, but I'll put it down here. Discard, profit, motive, embrace, profit, motive. Be the change. Believe in something. These are just like, you know, go ahead.
Be the change. I feel like you could definitely like expand that into like be the change, give the change to your community. Because that's kind of what that you're giving your affinity value to your community.
I like that. Be the change, give the change. Or give your change to be the change.
Yeah, I could definitely word that better because that's just the first thing that popped in my head, but something along those lines where like be the change, give your change to your community.
Yeah, nice. I like that. One thing I think Drost was hitting on last week, like too big to fail. This idea of like big tech, big banks, big gov, big pharma. It's time for small, something like that.
It's a lot of B's in there. There's got to be a play on the alliterative nature of be the change, believe in something, be your own bank.
Yeah, that's true.
BCard.
I'm trying to think of a way to bridge something like a like a backyard barbecue or a cookout or a campfire. How do you connect that with crypto and community?
So something that I wrote about, this Argentinian I did an interview with when I first started at Bankless DAO, and they for their barbecues, they would put their money together to kind of save up for these barbecues. And one of the ways that they did it was by using crypto to save up together to hold these kind of asados.
Ooh, block party online? Something along that vein?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Octon is using that whole block party thing, so something about it is working.
Maybe something like every bonfire needs a spark. Be the spark to light up your community, something like that.
Yeah, that whole idea of um, setting people on fire or setting people's souls on fire, like this idea of setting fire to things because like the world is so drab and dreary. I really like that idea. Like, yeah, setting fire. Um,
Maybe ignite instead of spark, a little bit more aggressive verbiage. Like a spark
yeah,
is a little flint, you know, but ignite, you're setting fire to something intentionally. I don't know.
yeah, absolutely. Take flight related to that. It's something similar that we played around with at Bankless DAO. Let's fly.
Ooh. Break the chain, build a community.
Yeah, I like how this evokes bottom up action. I think that that's really something that we're trying to create. That idea of bottom up action. Anything you do, you can make a difference, right?
When I say break the chain, I mean like break the status quo, move to Web3 crypto away from TradFi because it's TradFi.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that that's an action you can take, right? Like, I think people feel powerless often, especially in the face of these big banks. But actually, there are things that you can do, right? Like, there are things you can do personally. Yeah. So thinking about building something, every brick builds a wall. Small actions lead to something big. It's a brainstorm. Feel free to just throw anything out.
I don't want to build walls. There's enough people talking about building walls. I'd rather build doorways, pathways.
Yeah. So if we had like a brick pathway, like in the Wizard of Oz.
No, I just don't like the idea of it because it feels like an obstacle. That's really what I was getting at.
Yeah, I feel you. I think like the idea was more around like what I was trying to evoke, and you know maybe that didn't come in was this idea of building something, right? Like you can do a small action, and it could like over time. Okay, by yourself, you just put a single brick on the ground. But if you put one down, and I put one down, and Tom puts one down, and everyone else in this room puts one down, all of a sudden we're starting to make a bit of a pathway.
Yeah, when you said that, I thought of pyramids. I don't know if we want to equate or use pyramid iconography. Um, I had something else, but I forgot. Oh, something like banks are for profit, community is for you.
Yeah, I like that. Like this idea of like for profit versus for purpose. Profit, I mean, purpose is the new profit, something like that. Because we had this idea of like pink is the new bank, and people really resonated with that message. It was just a throwaway message that we created, right? But people resonated with that.
I'm trying to remember where I saw this. It was just yesterday, actually.
Mission over
And it
safety.
was
Sorry, I just wanted to pop that out there.
Mission over safety.
Yeah, and I think like financial, like instead of going for profit, have as much money as possible. Purpose.
What were you saying, Jost?
Sorry.
Oh, I was just thinking back to the banking side of things, and I was looking at a graphic yesterday, and I'm trying to remember where I saw it. It might have been in an I don't know where it was. Maybe it was A16Z. I'm not sure, but just about the consolidation of banks, or maybe it was something that was in one of your presentations.
No, it was
Like,
A16Z because I posted it yesterday. It's in the team chat. A16Z.
yeah,
5
that
banks,
really
50% of all assets.
yes, that really struck me about not only has the number of banks, it was something like there used to be something like 20,000 banks in the US, and then it was showing a graph on how that shrunk over the last 15, 20 years. And currently, like you were just saying, 5 banks represent about half of the total. Chase, the names Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, and JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo. That consolidation is a problem. Just like consolidation of anything, it reduces competition. Yet it makes you feel powerless. And the bigger these numbers get, not siphoning off, that sounds bad, but redirecting some of that. I mean, the crumbs can actually be pretty significant. It's like all the businesses that have been built off of these behemoths like Google, Microsoft, Apple, that they built entire industries around an accessory for a product from that company. How
Yep.
do we ride the? Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that graphic really struck me about how much of the flow. They talk about deal flow and venture capital, but just about money flow, and how those 5 entities are capturing most of the transaction fees. And
Have you seen that Coinbase pizza commercial?
I may have seen it once, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's basically like it shows someone ordering a pizza, and it goes through all of this stuff until finally, like they cut off slices, they cut off pieces, people take bites of it, and then it just like lands on the sidewalk, like very unceremoniously, and the pizza guy picks it up, and he's just like, "This commercial is not about pizza," and he's just talking about how our financial system is set up this way. Yeah, so I totally feel that.
No, I haven't seen that one.
You should check it out. Just search Coinbase pizza commercial on YouTube. Everyone here should check it out. It is indicative of what's happening in America, and America more so than everywhere else. But I do think that graph that you mentioned, that A16 graph, is very important. This idea that this is what for-profit gets us. It gets us a couple of centralized brokers which control everything you do. And guess what? The further along you go, because it's for-profit, they're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about society. They're thinking about stacking more and more dollars. The end game of capitalism, for anyone who is playing as an individual, is to have all of the money. We're not living in a pure capitalist society where there are a pure capitalist society would be that every individual has complete like kind of godlike understanding of what's happening, and there are alternatives available for everyone. But we're not doing that because the more control some of these entities they get, they are actually blocking new late stage capitalism. Exactly, they are blocking new entrants. So essentially, if your goal is to get a monopoly, your goal isn't to have a pure capitalistic society. It is to pay lip service to capitalism while creating a monopoly yourself. And that's kind of what's happening right now in society. That's the thing that we, I think, in this room and around the crypto sphere feel. We feel stifled that these people are controlling our options, and we are kind of discarded by this system because we don't fit into their nice little neat box, and we want alternatives, and they don't want us to have those alternatives because that gets in the way of their monopoly. And so it is a vicious cycle, and I think it's something that we really we really feel here. And I do see that we're a little bit over time. So let me just say this: there are lots of we are in a very late stage capitalist world. We are on the side of more monopolies than there are small players, and you saw it in that A16Z graph. There are just fewer and fewer alternatives for banking. And so what does that mean? Every reaction or every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We are the reaction to all of these big top-down players taking control. So understand that. We are the agents of change. We are trying to create something that's different. We see that this kind of idea of for-profit over everything else has created a system that doesn't really work for us. And so we have to be something different. And that's why we are for purpose. So I just wanted to remind that to all of you. That's why I'm here. And let's keep iterating on this messaging. Anytime you think of anything, we're gonna be just iterating on this messaging across Twitter, across Warpcast, and across a couple different distribution methods. So I would love for you to just share your thoughts as we go. Anytime you like, throw it into the team chat, ping me, and let's talk about it. Because all of the people in this room, you are the early warning system. You are the canary in the coal mine for the rest of society. There is something wrong. And only through our work, through our effort, and through our teamwork are we going to be able to make it right. So thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all the hard work you're doing. And I'm having a ton of fun holding this black flag with you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See y'all
Thanks,
soon.
everybody. Let's keep building it.
Thank you all.
Keep building. Keep holding that black flag.